Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Are your kids
Good.
back in school today or is it another snow day?
Um, well, I don't have any kids, but the kids are,
Oh,
yeah, the kids are out. The school district is closed today. So,
okay. Wow. So
yeah.
they're closed again today. Wow.
Yeah, the roads are pretty icy, and there was a little snow coming down, not much this morning, but usually when the roads are icy, they close it down.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So do they have so many designated days out of the school year that they can close for snow days?
I think so, and then if they go over that, they make up for it at the end of the year. So,
Yeah.
that always stinks for
Oh, yeah.
when that happens, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's
So
that's nice. That's always fun. For some reason I was thinking you had kids that
no,
were home yesterday because of the snow. So not yet. No.
not yet.
Yeah. I know. I was always surprised in Oregon when we would have a ton of snow. And I don't know, we were on the east side of the Cascade. So in Bend, we got a lot of snow. And a lot of times they didn't call it. I mean, and I work for the school district there. So it was, I don't know, there were a lot. And then sometimes they would call off school when I didn't think it was that bad. And then other days it was really bad and they would still have it. So I always wondered if it was because they were getting down to the end of their allowed days and then they just wanted to try to get through it. So we were even,
Yeah.
one day they didn't call it. So everybody went and it was so bad that they let school out early because they wanted everybody just to get home. So, but
Yeah.
kids get so excited. It's cute.
Yeah,
So
I can hear the kids in my neighborhood having a blast out there, and I
yeah.
saw them yesterday on their sleds going down the street. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
That's awesome. I know I used to tell my kids, if we go over our allowed days, you guys have to make them up at the end. And they didn't care because yeah, they were just so excited to not have to go and get to play in the snow. So,
Yeah.
all right, well, we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Go ahead and mute you. Here we go. Let's start off with common words. Let, good, start, take, to, where, through, never, much, day, tell, wasn't, girl, feel, your, call, talk, will, long, than, us, made, friend, new, open, which, need, first, people, that's, sure, seem, stop, voice, very, felt, took, hour, pull, laugh, man, okay, close, any, came, told, watch, arm, love, anything, aisle, though, put, left, work, guy, hair, next. All right, so let's do some common phrases. Here we go. I didn't believe. I didn't believe so. I don't believe. I don't believe so. I have believed. If he believed. If he believes. If I believe. If I believed. If you believe. If you believed. Must believe. Must have believed. Shall believe. She believed. She believes. Should believe. Should have believed. So he believed. So he believes. So I believe. So I believed. So you believe. So you believed. That he believed. That he believes. That I believe. That I believed. That you believe. That you believed. They believe. They believed. They have believed. To believe. To have believed. We believe, we believed, we have believed, what he believed, what he believes, what I believe, what I believed, what you believe, what you believed, when he believed, when he believes, when I believe, when I believed, when you believe, when you believed. All right, so these are going to be locations with radio stations. Here we go. Cameron, Missouri, KMRN. Grand Haven, Michigan, WGHM. Walker, Minnesota, KQST. Knoxville, Iowa, KMIA. Lancaster, California, KKZZ. Portland, Oregon, WBHM. Augusta, Georgia, WGAC. And I was going to say this, but I realized I already said it, but I'll go ahead and say it. Knoxville, Iowa, KMIA. All right. Now, I've got a basic theory brief review with sentences. We've got somebody, someone, something, everybody, everyone, everything, anybody, anyone, anything. Here are your sentences. Has anybody done something about the leak? Everybody must have seen it, and it seems to me anyone could have at least put a bucket under it. Anything would have helped, but everyone just ignored it. Everything that can be done has been done. Now, someone should spread out the wet things to dry. Does somebody have a rag? Please tell everybody to tell anybody they see that somebody must file the letters. Anyone should know that everyone should do something about it. Everyone has finished everything. Was there anything left for someone to do? It is difficult to get anybody to do anything. I need someone who knows the system. I think everyone knows that something must be done. Is there anything you can send me? I need someone to do something about this. Okay. Initial consonants that start with TR. Here we go. A tracer tracked the trajectory. There was a trace of truth in the story. The doctor tried a tracheotomy. Try the trotting track for long shots. We traded 2 tracts of land. Even the tractor could get no traction. Our trademark was tried and true. By tradition, we save trees. He tried to traduce my reputation. The traffic caused the tragedy. The trail led to a tragic tryst. Trailers were sold in the transaction. A tramp trampled the trampoline. She was in a tranquil trance. A tramway is a form of transportation. They tried to transcribe the trial notes. Transcribers trip on trilogies. Transfer to the transatlantic flight. We had a tray full of treats. It is treacherous to tread on mud. Okay. Now I've got some shun words, and then I've got some sentences for you. Here we go. Passion, mention, excuse me, remission, session, fashion, mission, permission, tradition, lesion, fusion, inflation, tension, ration, nation, nutrition, sensation. And here are your sentences. I don't know where he got that notion. His perception is acute. The train is due at the station at noon. Use caution as you approach. Captioning is an exciting opportunity for court reporters. The school board could not agree on the teaching of evolution. She had a contusion on her forehead. It is a tradition to throw rice after the wedding. The dictation was just a tiny bit too fast. Do you think it would be an intrusion to visit for the weekend? The House passed the resolution just before it adjourned. You really need to make a concession. His pension was just not enough. Is he a close relation? It takes work to increase your retention of dictation. The rock formation was unusual. Were you late for the reception? The precipitation this year was low. Did you look up the definition? I don't have any inclination to go in that ice-cold water. I am afraid my irritation showed. Did you have occasion to comment on his reputation? That is just a delusion. Imitation crab has less fat. Okay. I've got some Tangle Tamers. Here we go. Ready? Consecutive tournaments. Virtually ignored. Outnumbered consecutively. Illegally imprisoned. Non-environmental issue. Crumbling dollars. Constitutional amendment. Aerial spraying. Fugitive subpoena. Flamboyant personality. Media circus. Civil liberties group. Computer aided device. Congestion update. Storybook plantation. Triumphantly crossing. Treatment quarantine. Requirement challenged. Studio environment. All right. Now I've got some items that join words with and. Okay, here we go. Ready? Bride and groom. Hat and coat. Top and bottom. Black and white, which you can use BLAT for that. Cup and saucer. Nuts and bolts. Truck and trailer. Cars and trucks. Up and down. Off and on. Nose and throat. Home and garden. Gas and oil. Army and navy. Pen and ink. Knife and fork. Surf and sand. Black and blue, which is BLAB. House and garage. Dollars and cents. Stars and stripes. Short and fat. Tall and slim. Cats and dogs. Hammer and nails. Sunny and hot. Red and green. Land and sea. Chair and table. Back and forth. Salt and pepper. Read and write. Light and dark. Tall and handsome. Bed and breakfast. Over and under. Right and left. Hot and cold. Eyes and ears. Robe and slippers. Arm and leg. Pots and pans. Bread and butter. Over and out. Front and back. Pencil and paper. All right, names and addresses. Lori G. Van Gorder, VANGORDER, 9239 Ridge Road, Kinsman, Ohio, 44528. Sister Jeanne Marie Jones, Jones, Catholic Central High School, 319 Sheldon Avenue, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 49503. Ms. Jolene A. Smith, Smith, Gilroy High School, 7653 Church Street, Gilroy, California, 95020. Dorothy J. Okwai, Okwayy, State of New Jersey, Training School for Boys, Skillman, New Hampshire, 08508. Anthony C. Brown, Brown, Route 2, Box 173, Maiden, North Carolina, 28650. Larry G. Destroy, Destroy, 145 224th Street, Rosedale, New York, 11413. Melissa L. Snyder, Snyder, 124 Grand Street, Danville, Pennsylvania, 17821. Sycamore High School, attention Kathy Hammett, Hamett, 250 Spartan Trail, Sycamore, Illinois, 60178. Sue B. Lutz, Lutz, 1343 Lenz Court, Layton, Wisconsin, 53081. All right, let's go ahead and start our literary. I'm going to start off here, my watch, with a technical answer. Okay, and I'll read this at 120. Kind of get us warmed up here. Okay, all right, here we go. Then we were to install cleanouts at the ends of all drain pipes. Cleanouts also had to be installed at any points where the pipes made turns. Cleanouts are needed at the foot of each rise. When there is a horizontal run of 50 feet, then it is also necessary to install one. If the plug to a cleanout is going to be flush with the floor or other surface, the plugs must be countersunk. It is necessary to have the same type of cleanouts for any waste or soil pipes. The cleanout in question had been countersunk and was at the end of a 40-foot horizontal run. In fact, there was a proper drop in the 40-foot run. In my opinion, the cleanout had been installed properly. The drop should have been enough to take care of the damage. All right. I've got some literary here. This is on small business regulations. Okay, here we go. And I'll work my way to 140 with this one, okay? Mr. President, today the Senate takes a major step forward in creating a more fair, a more efficient, and a more responsive federal regulatory system for small businesses in this country by the enactment of the Regulatory Flexibility Act. With the passage of this act, federal regulations can be developed only after agencies thoroughly assess their impact on small businesses, small organizations, or small governmental jurisdictions. Agencies will be required to assess the cost of compliance with regulations for small business. They will have to prepare an assessment of the paperwork burden which a new regulation would impose, and they will have to give small businesses a greater opportunity to participate in shaping rules which would affect them. By passing this legislation, the Senate is finally addressing one of the most pressing problems facing our nation's small business, local governments, and small organizations, which is the problem of complying with hundreds of thousands of complex regulations which apply across the board to every business, government, or other organization without regard to differences in size or resources. Every senator has heard America's small businessmen and women express outrage because they believe they have suffered unfairly from burdensome federal regulations. This is not the result of the willful intent of regulators to single out small businesses to comply with costly regulations. Rather, it is more often failure of federal regulatory agencies to comply common sense when drafting complex or conflicting rules without giving adequate consideration to the resources or the ability of smaller entities to comply with them. Over the past 2 decades, our country has made great strides in providing safer places for our citizens to work, cleaner air to breathe, and water to drink, and ensuring the manufacture of safer products. Many of these benefits are the result of new laws, which Americans still support and which continue to provide important safeguards for all of us. It is not the intent of regulatory flexibility legislation to undermine these important achievements. Rather, it is a recognition that we can do better in implementing these laws. In our efforts to secure benefits for the public at large, we often have created conflicting standards or needlessly complex reporting or compliance requirements for small businesses. This legislation requires agencies to address that problem squarely and directly. The best example of failure to use common sense has taken place in regulations, which often are written to apply uniformly to small and big businesses alike, to big cities and to small rural towns alike, and to major national organizations and local nonprofit community groups without any distinction. The Regulatory Flexibility Act will encourage agencies to make that distinction while still complying with the basic intent of the law. Basically, it establishes the principle that regulations can and should be designed to fit the scale and abilities of the institutions being regulated. The measure spells out a series of new steps to assure that the regulatory agencies, in carrying out their statutory mandates, carefully consider the needs and interests of small entities. Except for these steps, the bill does not alter present procedural requirements, nor does it amend in any fashion substantive law. We intend the agencies to continue to enforce those laws in a fully effective fashion. Indeed, we believe that the added management tool we are providing in this legislation will increase the agency's ability to do so. Mr. President, the passage of this bill represents 3 years of work on regulatory flexibility. I wish to thank my distinguishing colleague, Senator Faylord Nelson of Wisconsin, who with me first introduced the bill in August of 2009. His leadership as chairman of the Senate Small Business Committee has helped establish a range of new federal policies and programs to benefit small business. The Senate passed it unanimously in the 95th Congress. I would also like to thank Senator Paul Lax of Nevada, whose work on regulatory reform and flexibility has proved invaluable. In the 95th Congress, the Subcommittee on Administrative Practice and Procedure held a series of hearings on the need to reform the federal process. Case after case was presented to the subcommittee, documenting the unfair and unequitable impact which uniform regulations can have on small businesses, local governments, and other small organizations. These are the very entities often least able to cope with mounting red tape and paperwork. The mayor of Fort Madison, Iowa, Robert Palta, told the subcommittee that uniform regulations have a disproportionate impact on small cities, which lack the financial resources and capacity to comply with those regulations. Because of this disproportionate impact, small cities must hire costly consultants, where large cities can rely on their own staffs, limit the size and scope of projects, or if they can, choose not to take part in a particular program. A small car wash owner in Marshalltown, Iowa, told us that if she had been forced to comply with certain regulations proposed by the Environmental Protection Agency, she would have had to close her business. She added that there are 148,000 car washes in Iowa, all of which are small businesses. This is going to cost a lot of jobs if this kind of regulation comes through. Small business people are really getting discouraged. They are not only fighting inflation and fighting to try to get the consumer to come to their business when their disposable income is going down, but they are fighting rules and regulations and more regulations every day. They are really getting discouraged. Since those hearings, the momentum for regulatory flexibility has grown. At almost every meeting I have had with small business owners in Iowa, the major topic of discussion has been the need to revitalize the economy, and more specifically, the need to ease the burden of federal paperwork. Reams of reports and answers to questions from federal agencies are a constant source of headaches for small business operators all over the country. And I do think that was challenging, so it was more challenging. Don't be discouraged. Let me just date this. All right, so since that was longer, I'm going to just give you a short jury charge selection. Okay, this is the Duty of Jurors. And I'll read this one at 160, okay? Since we did the other one at 120, 140. Okay, here we go. The Duty of Jurors. Wind my watch here. Okay. Excuse me, I have allergies today. I even took an allergy pill. All right, here we go. It is sometimes difficult for 6 men and women to agree on any important issue, especially if it is controversial. Hence, a jury would hardly be expected to reach an agreement without considerable reasoning together, laying aside all extraneous matters and considering the various viewpoints and suggestions of the individual members with an eye single to the truth. Therefore, it is your duty as jurors to consult with one another and to deliberate with a view to reaching an agreement, if you can do so, without violence to your individual judgment. You each must decide the case for yourself, but you should do so only after a consideration of the case with your fellow jurors. You should not hesitate to change your opinion when convinced that it is erroneous. But of course, there should be no surrender of a well-considered, conscientious opinion. All right. Let's do some Q&A. And this is going to be a direct examination by Mr. Golden. Okay, and I'm going to start this at 120. And with this one, I'll just work my way to 140, and then the next one we'll pick up at 160, okay? All right. This is going to be plaintiff attorney. Here we go. What is your name, sir? Frank Grayson. What is your occupation? I'm with the real quick, it said direct examination by Mr. Golden. So Mr. Golden is the attorney. For some reason, I was thinking for a second it was the witness, but it's not. So it's by Mr. Golden. All right, sorry about that. What is your name, sir? Frank Grayson. What is your occupation? I'm with the North Carolina Wildlife. Mr. Grayson, where do you live? I live approximately 12 miles west of the Hickory Farm on Highway 34 near Salem Crossroads. Do you live there with your wife and one boy? Were you living there on the 25th of March of this year? Yes. Sir, did anything unusual occur at your home that day? Yes, sir. As I approached my home at approximately 12:30 p.m., I pulled in the driveway. I spotted a white van that was backed up in my garage, a carport. I knew then that there was something wrong, so I called for some assistance to come and meet me. After I got confirmation that the assistance was coming, I stepped out of my car and I heard my glass door open in the basement. At that time, I pulled my gun and stepped over toward my brick fence. I spotted this man coming up beside the wall with a pistol in his hand. He had the pistol kind of in this position. I yelled at him to drop the pistol. He still held it in that position. In another second, I yelled at him again to drop the pistol. He still held it there for another 2 or 3 seconds, and then he dropped it. At that time, I made him put his hands on his head and walked him on up the bank towards me. I tried to keep him between me and the carport because I kind of suspected there was another man in my house. A passerby saw me marching him back to my car, and he stopped and wanted to know if I needed any help. I said, if you don't mind, I would like for you to put the handcuffs on him because I'm afraid there is somebody else in my house. So he did. Is that person that you said had the pistol, you saw him there at your house? Is he in the courtroom? Yes, sir. Where is he? Right over there. Is he the one you put the handcuffs on? Yes, sir. That's the guy we put the handcuffs on. Did you ask him at the time, was there anybody else in the house? Yes, sir, I did. What did he tell you? He told me that there wasn't anybody else in the house, that he was the only one that broke into my house. What did you do then? At that time, after I got the handcuffs on him, I asked him, was there anybody else in the house? And he swore that there was nobody else in the house. Did you look at the pistol? After a few seconds went by, I went and picked up the pistol. I looked at the pistol, and it was my pistol that he had come out of the house with. I asked him, I said, "Where did you get this pistol?" He said, "I got it out of your house." I looked on it, and it said NCWRD, which is North Carolina Wildlife Resource Department. What kind of pistol was it? It was a Smith & Wesson 38. Was it loaded? Yes, sir. Where did you keep the pistol in your house? I kept it in my bedroom, in my chest of drawers. Did any assistants arrive? Yes, sir. Deputy Saylor arrived, and then 3 of my fellow officers, they arrived, Officer Lockley, Keith Fingerhouse, and Gary Dodson. Did you look at the van before you went in the house? Yes, sir, I did. What was in the van? There were stacks of articles that had come out of my house, just piled up in the van, different items. Okay, can you tell us what kind of stuff? Be more specific. My television, there was a stereo, guns, shotguns, cell phones, computer. It was a list of stuff. I don't know how many items were in there. I didn't take inventory right then of the stuff that came out of my house. Do you recognize this? Yes, sir. What is that? It's a list of articles that came out of my house that were already in the van. Already in the van? Yes, sir. Except for the pistol? Except for the pistol, yes, sir. Did you make this list out? Yes, sir. Now I notice that you have a price on the items. Whose writing is that? This is my wife's writing, the price down here. Who made the estimate of the value of this property? My wife and I. Did you make an estimate yourself? We both did, yes, sir. As to what items did you place the value on, sir? The television was one thing. What did you put on that? I believe it was $500. What other items did you place a value on? You mean personally? Yes, sir, you personally. My shotgun, how much was that? It was $550. What kind of shotgun? Winchester, the .22 rifle. How much did you put on that? $350. I also had a Smith & Wesson pistol. How much did you put on that? $475, I believe, is what it was. Is your wife available as a witness today? No, sir, she's not. She's working. Okay, now she works downtown for the Lincoln Bridal Company. Okay, we can get her, can't we? Can we have her come in tomorrow as a witness? Yes, that's fine. Okay, now what condition was your television in? Well, the screen on the TV was broken and it was scratched up. Once they moved it back in the house, it would not work. What condition was it in when it was in the house? It was in new, perfect condition. Was the screen broken on it? No, sir. Nothing was wrong with it. When you looked at it in the van, what condition was it in? Well, the corner of the screen was cracked and scratched up real bad, maybe like he threw it in the van. Where, if any place, did you take this defendant? After Deputy Saylor got there, Deputy Saylor read him his rights. We searched the house. Then he was transported to jail by Deputy Saylor. Did you go up to the jail? Later on to fill out paperwork? Yes, sir. All right. Let's do some for voice. Okay. All right. So this is going to start with plaintiff, but the court jumps in as well as defense, okay? I'll read this out, start at 140 and work my way to 160, okay? Did Mr. Gates tell you how many times Trigger fired the gun at him? I don't recall if he said specifically how many rounds. I don't recall if he said he knew how many rounds that Trigger had fired at him. Do you recall Mr. Gates telling you that he was shot 5 to 6 times? I'm sorry. Do you recall Mr. Gates telling you that he was shot at 5 to 6 times? I don't recall him saying that. However, if I put it in my report, if I can look at that to refresh my recollection, would it refresh your recollection if you looked at that portion of your report? Yes, it would. With the court's permission? Sure, go ahead. What page was that on? Yes, I'm not sure what page we are looking at. That would be page number 1 of the supplemental. Counsel, do you have a copy? Yes. I don't seem to have that supplemental in this folder. What was the date of the supplemental at the bottom? I have an idea. Why don't you just show him what you're referring to and let counsel know so he can follow along? That's fine. Did you take a look at your report? Yes, I did. Is your recollection now refreshed? Yes, it is. Did Mr. Gates tell you how many times Trigger shot at him? He said, Gates said 5 to 6 times. During the course of your investigation, did you also have the opportunity to make contact with Kyle Smith? Yes, I did. Do you see Kyle Smith here in court today? Yes, I do. Could you please identify him for the record? He's seated next to his defense attorney in a orange Santa Barbara County jumpsuit. Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant, Kyle Smith. Any objection, counsel? No objection, Your Honor. All right, thank you. The record will so reflect. Where was it that you initially made contact with Kyle Smith? In Portland, Oregon. Why is it that you made contact with Mr. Smith there? Mr. Smith had been arrested in Portland and had been booked in a local jail in that area. We were given the extradition paperwork to go pick him up. And was that the date of that contact with Mr. Smith, October 14th of 2014? I'm sorry, did you say October 14? Yes. No, I believe that it is November 14th. Yes. Would it refresh your recollection if you looked at your report? It was October 15th. October 14th, I believe, that we flew out there. It was on the 15th, on Friday. We contacted him on the 2nd day. Okay, so sometime in October, you made contact with Mr. Smith out of state. Is that correct? Yes, I believe that the 14th was a Thursday. The 15th was a Friday, if I recall correctly. It was the 2nd day. We arrived on a Thursday, and we picked him up on Friday afternoon. Okay, at some point after your contact with Mr. Smith, did you interview him? Yes, I did. Prior to interviewing him, did you advise him of his Miranda rights? Yes, I did. And how did you do that? Well, initially, we had caught a plane flight from Oregon, the first leg of it, to Portland, Oregon. Let me stop you 1 second. In advising the defendant of his Miranda rights, Did you read it off of your department-issued Miranda card? At the time, no, I didn't. Okay, did you advise him of his rights based on your memory of what your department-issued Miranda card says? Yes, we realized that we were in Portland, Oregon, and I had wanted to talk to Mr. Smith, and I was looking out for his best interests, and I read him his rights. And then I told him that I didn't want him to speak about this matter at that moment because we were inside of the airport and there were a lot of people around us. And I didn't want him talking about guns and shooting people inside an airport. You just stated that you read the defendant his rights. I told him his rights, yes. Okay, and what did you tell the defendant with regard to his rights? That he had the right to remain silent and that anything that he said can be used against him in a court of law. He had the right to an attorney before and during questioning. If he couldn't afford an attorney, one would be appointed to him by the court free of charge. After you advised the defendant of those rights, did you ask him any questions? I asked him if he understood those rights and if he would be willing to speak to me. What did Mr. Smith tell you when you asked him if he understood those rights? He told me that yes, he did understand and he wanted to speak to me. And he kept trying to tell me what was going on. And I told him, look, I don't want to talk to you about this right here around everybody. If you would like, you can write down a statement of what happened while on the plane, and that way we didn't have to discuss this right now around any passengers. And then we left it at that. So then what happened? We got on the plane, the final flight from Portland to Los Angeles, and Mr. Smith asked me if I had that piece of paper so that he could write his statement. And I told him, yes, it will be a few minutes. And then I got him a piece of paper and a pen, handed it to him, and he spent the hour and 45 minutes writing. And then he continued that statement when we got to Santa Barbara Detention Center. So did Mr. Smith provide you with a written statement at some point? He provided me with a written statement after we were done booking him later that night. And once at Santa Barbara Detention Center, I read him his rights, Miranda rights, from my department-issued card while inside the jail, and that interview was recorded. How long was the document that Mr. Smith wrote? I believe that it was approximately 15 pages. So prior to speaking with Mr. Smith at Santa Barbara Detention Center, you re-advised him of his Miranda rights by reading the rights from your card. Yes, I did. Those were the same rights that you advised him of previously. Yes, they were. Okay, what did Mr. Smith tell you happened on September 14th at Herald Park? What did he tell me, or what was written? What did he tell you? Mr. Smith told me that there was an ongoing argument between himself and he referred to Mr. Gates as Bug, and that Bug has confronted him on numerous times. I'm sorry, I keep wanting to call him Mr. Gates' son, and Smith, having a problem with him. Smith, okay, just one moment. Did Mr. Smith tell you that Mr. Smith was having a problem with the son of Anthony Gates? I want to make sure we understand. No, Mr. Smith told me that Anthony Gates had confronted him about an alleged problem that was going on between Smith and Gates' son. Smith denies that he had any problems with Anthony Gates' son. Okay, what else did Mr. Smith tell you? He told me that he was confronted by Mr. Gates the day of the shooting across the street from Herald Park, He said that Mr. Gates had pulled out what he believed was either a screwdriver or a knife while speaking to Smith and Mr. Lawson, Henry Lawson, and he said that he had swung the screwdriver or the knife. Excuse me, Your Honor, but I'm getting lost. Who is he? Yes, we need you to tell us, clarify who he is. Gates. Okay, thank you. Smith said that Gates had swung the screwdriver at Lawson, and there were words exchanged between the two of them, and they were yelling, cussing at each other. Smith told me that he believed that Gates was going to go get a gun. And so Smith ran upstairs to his apartment with Lawson, and he retrieved his handgun, where he had loaded the handgun. He told me that he heard Lawson in the background telling him that they need to go lay down, lay low, and that Smith didn't want to listen to him. So Smith ran out the door and left Henry Lawson inside the apartment, and then he chased him down in Herald Park. He told me that he ran, quote, hard to catch up to him. I'm going to object to the he so we can clarify. Detective, you were doing good for a while, and then you started using the word he again. You have too many people in this story, too many players involved here for us to understand who the he is. Okay, I understand. I mean, I kind of follow you, but it can be confusing. Absolutely, Your Honor. Thank you. May I continue? Just one question. So what did Mr. Smith tell you happened after he started running hard through the park? Smith told me that he himself was running hard into the park to catch up to Gates. And when Smith caught up to Gates, he told him that he couldn't let him do this. Mr. Smith told Gates that he, Mr. Smith, could not let him do this. Those were his words. That's the quote. And Mr. Smith retrieved his handgun and opened fire on Gates. Did Mr. Smith tell you where he retrieved his handgun from? I believe that he said that it was in his waistband in the rear. Did he tell you what happened next? Mr. Smith told me that Gates grunted and said, quote, it's on, end quote, and he started to flee from him. Did Mr. Smith tell you what he did after Mr. Gates started to run away? Mr. Smith told me that I had asked Mr. Smith if he had seen any of the bullets that he had fired strike the victim, Mr. Gates. Mr. Smith told me that he saw one bullet hit Gates in his back, and I asked him how he knew that, how Mr. Smith knew that the bullet had struck him, and he said that he saw red on his shirt, and as he was running from him. Did Mr. Smith tell you what he did when Mr. Gates turned and ran? Mr. Smith told me that he had continued firing, and then he stopped and he fled from the park. Okay, so let's do our read back. I'm going to get out another transcript. That's one page. Were you tired of writing Mr. Smith and Mr. Gates over and over? Okay, now this is going to be defense attorney. It's one page. I'm going to read it once at 120, then again at 140, then again at 160. So your word list is dragging, walking, flipped, grabbed, glasses, realize, Mr. Porter, twist, and wrist. All right, so first time at 120. Here we go. Did you have your glasses on at the time? I always had them on. Do you know when they came off? After he grabbed me, I know that. That is all I know. You didn't realize you had lost them until you got out or were on your way out? That is right. And at that time, Mr. Porter was outside with you? Yes, sir. Did you see how Mr. Porter got out there? He came out through the door. He was right there with me. Was he ahead of you or behind you? Well, that I don't know. He can tell you that. Well, did you see Mr. Porter start out with you when you left the table? No, I didn't. My head was on the floor. There is the place yet where I was dragged over the floor. On the right cheek there? Yes, that has never healed up yet. You mean he was dragging you feet first? No, he had me in his arm and was dragging me. In other words, he was pulling you just by that right wrist there? Yes, sir. I see. But you weren't walking at all? No. Your feet were dragging along? When he gave my arm a twist, it flipped me to the floor. He just twisted my wrist hard. All right, so we'll do it again at 140. Okay, here we go. Did you have your glasses on at the time? I always had them on. Do you know when they came off? After he grabbed me. I know that. That is all I know. You didn't realize you had lost them until you got out or were on your way out? That is right. And at that time, Mr. Porter was outside with you? Yes, sir. Did you see how Mr. Porter got out there? He came out through the door. He was right there with me. Was he ahead of you or behind you? Well, that I don't know. He can tell you that. Well, did you see Mr. Porter start out with you when you left the table? No, I didn't. My head was on the floor. There is the place yet where I was dragged over the floor. On the right cheek there? Yes, that has never healed up yet. You mean he was dragging you feet first? No, he had me in his arm and was dragging me. In other words, he was pulling you just by that right wrist there? Yes, sir. I see, but you weren't walking at all? No. Your feet were dragging along? When he gave my arm a twist, it flipped me to the floor. He just twisted my wrist hard. All right, we'll do it one more time at 160. Here we go. Did you have your glasses on at the time? I always had them on. Do you know when they came off? After he grabbed me. I know that. That is all I know. You didn't realize you had lost them until you got out or were on your way out? That is right. And at that time, Mr. Porter was outside with you? Yes, sir. Did you see how Mr. Porter got out there? He came out through the door. He was right there with me. Was he ahead of you or behind you? Well, that I don't know. He can tell you that. Well, did you see Mr. Porter start out with you when you left the table? No, I didn't. My head was on the floor. There is the place yet where I was dragged over the floor. On the right cheek there? Yes, that has never healed up yet. You mean he was dragging you feet first? No, he had me in his arm and was dragging me. In other words, he was pulling you just by that right wrist there? Yes, sir. I see. But you weren't walking at all? No. Your feet were dragging along? When he gave my arm a twist, it flipped me to the floor. He just twisted my wrist hard. All right. Let me just state this so I know we've covered it. All right, how was that?
Pretty easy, I thought.
Good. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good because it kind of, when I was reading it, it didn't flow very easy when I was reading it. And I think it kind of threw me off when he was talking about, or she was talking about how she was on the floor, but then, let's see, I was dragged over the floor and then, the defense says on the right cheek there. And it's like, I don't know. But then I realized that, he's probably saying, oh, is this what happened when he drug you on the floor? That, you've got your right cheek injury. So I don't know. It just didn't read, or it didn't flow very easily. So, okay, let's go ahead and do read back. If you want, you can take 2 Q&As if you want.
Sure.
Okay, or you can do the whole thing if you want. You let me know.
Whatever you want to do. I can do whatever.
Why don't you do the whole thing, and then I will stop you if there's a word that is different, like if I have something different. Want to do that?
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Question, did you have your glasses on at the time? Answer, I always have them on. Question, do you know when they came off? Answer, after he grabbed me. I know that. That is all I know. Question, you didn't realize you had lost them until you got out. Wait.
Yeah.
Oh, out or were on your way out? Answer, that is right. Question, and at that time, Mr. Porter was outside with you? Answer, yes, sir. Question, did you see how Mr. Porter got out there? Answer, he came out through the door. He was right there with me. Question, was he ahead of you or behind you? Answer, well, that I don't know. He can tell you that. Question, well, did you see Mr. Porter start out with you when you left the table? Answer, no, I didn't. My head was on the floor. There is the place yet where I was dragged over the floor. Question, on the right cheek there? Answer, yes, that has never healed up yet. Question, you mean he was dragging you feet first? Answer, no, he had me in his arm and was dragging me. Question, in other words, he was pulling you just by that right wrist there? Answer, yes, sir. Question, I see. But you weren't walking at all? Answer, no. Question, your feet were dragging along? Answer, when he gave my arm a twist, it flipped me to the floor. He just twisted my wrist hard.
Oh, awesome. You didn't miss one word.
Yay!
100% accuracy there.
Awesome.
That is awesome. And did you, which speed did you read?
160.
Good job. That's awesome. Yay. So if you had to give yourself a speed, like what do you think your official speed is right now?
Well, literary is a little slower for me. But I would say my lit speed is 160.
Nice.
And I'm working on 180. So, good. And then jury charge though, I'm feeling really good. At 200 good. Even. So just because so many familiar words come up, it's
Yeah.
good. And then I would say I'm at 180 Q&A.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I should probably, I don't really turn anything in. I don't know what I should be doing. I'm grading myself at 180 and I'm like close to passing, but yeah, it just depends. Sometimes I can do a take at 200
Yeah.
if I'm having if it's a good, I don't know, a good day, or if I don't know. I've made a lot of progress just in the last month. So I'm kind of happy about that.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
that's typical, if you give if you put yourself in 180 and maybe on a good day, or if it's basic material, then you're going to be able to get 200, and then once you master 180, then you're going to notice that you're getting more 200, even if it won't even depend, on the material. You're just going to get it. You know what I mean? So that's typical. So, that's
Yeah.
usually how it works. So you're right on the mark.
Actually, since I started going back and like I was doing so much pushing at a higher speed, I actually think it was too much. I don't know. For me personally, this past month, I've gone back and done more at slower and just really focused on hitting everything clean and being very accurate. And I've actually started just going back through my theory books.
Good.
And writing through them. Like I just start each practice session just writing through a lesson and not worrying about the speed, just totally being accurate,
Yep.
And that helped me so much.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
That's okay.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And even this speed, I'm sure it's slow for you, but it's going to help you give you the confidence and clean up your notes. And that's why I think pushing and trailing are so important, because they do different things, trailing your focus in your real time, and pushing your,
I think when I trail too at a speed, it really pinpoints the problems. Like you can really tell like, oh, well, I should be getting this at this speed. So why am I hesitating? And then, I think it just kind of points out your weaknesses clearer than when you're pushing at a higher speed. So,
right. Because when you're pushing, your mind is just all over the place and you're just trying to get every word, where trailing it's like, oh, wow, why? Yeah. And jot those things down. Like, why am I hesitating with that word or that, concept or.
Yeah. So I think that is a big thing too for me. I've been able to work on more specifically like my trouble areas. And so,
yeah,
but we'll see how it goes. I'm attempting the jury charge again, the RPR, and it's scheduled for next week. And I bought, NCRA has where you can buy real past exams and for study, and I did a couple takes this past week, and specifically I did one last night that I was like, oh my goodness, I would pass. Like if I do what I can do, what I've been doing, I'll pass, so hopefully everything goes well on my actual test day, but I feel confident that I can pass. I know I can pass. So it's just a matter of doing it.
Yes, that's right. Just tell yourself, I'm not going to get nervous, because what's the worst thing? I have to take it again. So I'm just going to do my best and write what I hear, and you can do it. Like you said, you've been practicing and you would have passed if that were the official one. So
yeah. Yep, I would have. So
what day are you taking it next week?
Thursday.
Okay. Oh, I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yep.
it's
Do you get
I
to
mean
pick
it's
what time?
uh-huh.
Good. So pick whatever time, like where you're most focused. I don't know if you're a morning person or a night person, but that's important too, you know?
Yeah, I'm taking it like right after lunch,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
actually. Um I want to warm up a little bit and have a little time to just kind of relax and stuff. I don't know. I'm good in
Yeah.
the morning and I'm good at night, so I'm like, I don't know. I took the last one that I didn't pass in the middle of the day, but I felt good about that time of day, so I thought I would do it again.
Yeah.
So
Well, let me know how you feel. Do you
I will.
Yeah. How long does it take for you to get your results?
Well, you get an initial score immediately.
Okay. Okay, that's what I
And
thought.
I don't know what they officially say how long it takes to grade, but I've heard it just takes like a couple weeks maybe to get your
Okay.
official, maybe up to a month, but I don't even think it takes that long.
Okay.
So, but
Um,
I heard the initial score is pretty close.
okay.
So, and I think if you're under 92%,
Yeah.
they don't even mess with it. They don't grade it. Sorry,
Yeah.
because it's not
Yeah.
going to jump up that much. You might gain a percent maybe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyways, so we'll see how
Well,
it goes.
yes, you're gonna have to keep me posted. Let me know how it
I
goes.
will.
All right.
Yeah.
That's
I
all.
was so inspired by Donna. I'm sure you heard.
Oh yeah.
She's a CSR and an RPR. And
Isn't that amazing? And
oh,
she
when I read it, I was like, my husband was sitting right there. I'm like, I could just cry for her
I
because like
know.
the relief.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's such a hard worker. I mean, she puts her time on her machine and it paid off. And that's
Yeah.
how it is.
Yeah.
That's really the key. Just putting your time in on your machine because it's all muscle memory. That's it.
Yep.
So, and the ones that don't put a lot of time on their machine, they're probably going to get there someday. It's just going to take a lot longer. So it's, you know,
Yeah. And it's like, I have found that it doesn't take like, you don't have to kill yourself on your machine. You just have to be on it
mm-hmm,
consistently,
mm-hmm,
you
yeah,
know, it, and focus on working on your weaknesses. I think like
yep,
I for a while was doing stuff that was easy for me. That doesn't do anything for you, like you have to face head on the stuff that is hard, you
yes,
know?
yes,
So
yep, exactly.
yeah. Yeah. I was not on my machine enough, like starting in the summer last year, kind of all the way through the end of the year. I was like, I have to change this. I have to make a change. And you do see the results. They
Yeah,
come.
yep,
So
it is. That's so true. And you have to
and
celebrate all the little things too, not think, oh, it's not a big deal, because it is a big deal. Now that
yeah,
you're getting the jury charge, like that's a big deal.
yeah. And coming to live class helps a lot too, I think. That
Yeah.
just kind of keeps you accountable, and
Hmm.
that's important. So I've really made a commitment to trying to come,
Awesome.
whenever I can, when work doesn't conflict with the schedule, but
Yeah.
so
That's awesome. I agree. I think live classes are, if you can, work it into your schedule, it just helps, to have, I don't know, just to be in a live class and be able to interact with someone.
yeah, it helps a lot.
Yeah.
Anyways,
All right. Well, Catherine, you have a great day. And
you
hopefully I
too.
see you so we'll have class tonight. The high
I'll
school.
be
Okay.
I'll be in the class tonight
Yay.
too.
All
Yep.
right. Sounds good. Well, I'll see you in a little bit.
All right. See you
Okay.
then.
All right. Bye.
Bye.